According to the spokesman of the Internal Affairs Ministry, Kuanishbek Zhumanov, the deputy head of the Aksu district in the Almaty region, Berik Tunishbayev, was also detained following the Kazalagash emergency. Meanwhile, the country's MPs are busy evaluating the state of the emergency services. They accuse the ministry of negligence and misinformation and the government of inefficiency and lacking professionalism. Parliamentarians are sure that the break of the dam, which led to numerous deaths, could have been avoided.
2 weeks after the floods in the Almaty region, the MPs have finally spoken. The parliamentarians accuse the government of inefficiency, saying that the tragedy could have been prevented if the cabinet reacted sooner.
These natural disasters have shown the lack of preparation of the relevant ministries.
The House Speaker stood up for the government. Ural Muhammadjanov attempted to reassure the colleagues, saying that the cabinet keeps the situation under special control. According to him, the Prime Minister has already set up a commission and allocated money from the reserves.
Perhaps there are some mistakes on the part of the government, but in general it is doing its job. According to my data, a governmental commission led by Vice Prime Minister Umirzak Shukeyev is working at the emergency site. Do not jump to conclusions yet.
While talking about the inaction of the government, the MPs added some weight to their words with videos showing the devastated area and the real scale of the disaster. The parliamentarians also attacked rescuers and called the emergency ministry a sleeping organization that responds to emergencies only after they happen.
The ministry leadership is well aware of this unfortunate situation, yet they didn't even attempt to acknowledge their fault and asked for apologies from the nation and victims of the disaster, which resulted in the deaths of many people.
Now the MPs demand to reorganize the emergency ministry and to create a new, more responsive authority. After criticizing the cabinet and its head, the MPs appealed to them with a request of assistance. Parliamentarians asked to exempt from taxes the farmers from the flooded areas, pay compensations for dead livestock and provide free grants to high school graduates from the affected disaster zones.
Pavlodar MP Slyambek Akimov, who is accused by a 22-year-old woman of beating her, has finally showed up during the session of the local administration on Wednesday. Prior to this, Akimov's colleagues had not seen him for nearly 2 months.
This January, a woman accused the MP in beating her. According to Katkina, Akimov has beaten her while they stayed in an Almaty hotel, Kazakhstan, before a trip to Thailand. After that, Akimov has disappeared for a while from the public view, explaining his absence with a vacation outside of Pavlodar. As to whether he beats women or not, the MP readdressed the question to the investigators. This is the work of investigative authorities, who should prove and find out whether she was actually injured by someone.
So you are saying it is not true?
Investigators are looking into this. I will give you comments after the initial inquiry.
Humanitarian aid collected by Semey businessmen has been sent to the most affected by spring floods Tarbagatay region in eastern Kazakhstan.
10 supersized trucks were sent from Semey to the villages most affected by spring floods in the region. Medicine, food supplies, clothing and livestock fodder are being brought to the area. The delivery of the aid is coordinated by the City Fund for Flood Victims, which was established on the next day after the disaster. Semey residents who survived nearby nuclear tests know very well what a human tragedy is. Therefore, we are not surprised that the entire town, with all of its organizations and institutions, is not ignoring the Tarbagatay tragedy.
The help is also needed in the Pavlodar region. While the officials assure the population of some villages that the situation is under control, the residents of nearby settlements are actually losing their homes to the flood.
The residents of the village Maikain in the Pavlodar region have joined the ranks of homeless people, as their houses were recently flooded. The region's governor Bakhtjan Sagintayev has visited the most devastated area, but failed to reach the flooded village.
My house was flooded first. While we were helping neighbors, the water entered other houses too. 6 houses were flooded in total. This one collapsed first.
While Sirik Mutalib was busy to save his property, the governor was giving a speech to the people in the neighboring village. Bakhtjan Sagintayev assured the people that the situation is under control and there is no reason to panic.
The money will be allocated tomorrow so that if there will be an evacuation, everything will be ready, vehicles and gas.
Rescuers who accompanied the governor also assured the population that there is no danger of flooding. However, if the river Nura overflows its banks, then two villages, Karashi and Tindik, with a population of 1,500 people could still be flooded. The old dam will not be able to hold back all the water, and the new one will only be built in the summer.
These dams were breached. Now we want to send some heavy equipment there to reinforce the dangerous zones.
At the moment, there are 40 buses in the Bayanul district ready to evacuate local residents at any time. None of them, however, was sent to Maykain, where more than 1,000 people could end up completely losing their houses.
Almaty's traffic police attempted to set up a direct dialogue with the city drivers and used the opportunity to explain the population president's address and some of the state policies.
Dear residents of Almaty, the Traffic Police Department is conducting an action admission on the road. Should you have any questions, you can ask them in the bus and the competent staff will try to give you all the answers. Almaty's traffic policemen were working extra hard for the entire day on March 31st. Public receptions were set up in the several buses which were used by the officers to perform their direct duties and also talk about the politics.
This action aims at explaining to citizens the state policies and the president's address. Also, drivers could use the opportunity and talk to us about other issues.
The state policies were explained by those who do really understand and appreciate it. This includes processing center specialists and representatives of technical and road supervision department. The two info buses chose to stop near crowded places, like major shopping centers, train stations and markets. But even there, only a few people wished to ask tricky questions to the police.
Will the police limit the number of out-of-town cars that can enter the city? Sure, this issue is under consideration.
This is not the first time the police is communicating directly with potential regulations violators. A similar action was held for the first time last year, although without any politics. Nevertheless, experienced drivers were skeptical about both the message and the police.
The fines are very high and the people have no money. They can't cut them back as it is not up to them. What do they know? Even I know everything better, even the traffic rules. This is a good idea, although there should be a certain mechanism of a hotline to keep this up.
In under an hour, the centers were visited by only 10 people. The range of questions was truly limited to just a few topics like technical inspections of vehicles and fines. All drivers unanimously ignored the opportunity to talk about the address of the head of state.
These were the latest updates from Kazakhstan. Stay with us. Goodbye.